The Senzo Meyiwa murder case is continuing at the North Gauteng High Court. The Bafana and Orlando Pirates goalkeeper and captain was shot dead at his then girlfriend Kelly Khumalo's home in Vosloorus back in 2014. It's been a long time coming, but finally, Slindelo Masikane, it looks like we are getting somewhere. Another application by Khumalo. What is this one about?
Yeah, so it does seem as though we are officially at least within the trial resuming, Gareth, and that is because we have resumed with cross-examination of the state's first witness, that is Sergeant Thabo Mosia, the forensic officer that was called to the crime scene to collect evidence. And before we could resume with that cross-examination, Advocate Zandile Mshololo for accused number 5 made another application, but in terms of the fact that she wants to introduce hearsay evidence. This evidence is in connection or is contained in docket 375. That's the second docket that investigated this murder, and we know of course that that docket has a completely different picture in terms of what happened and transpired on that evening. In fact, some of the evidence that is contained in the current docket in the trial is also contained in docket 375, namely the photographs or the photo exhibits which were taken by the forensic officer, that is Sergeant Thabo Mosia. Now, Mshololo told the court that she wants to introduce this hearsay evidence because not only is it in the interest of justice, but there are contradictory statements which have been made by Sergeant Mosia that she wants to cross-examine him on. Let's take a listen to her submissions.
My Lord, I would like to bring the application to lead hearsay evidence in terms of Section 3, subsection 1C of Act number 45 of 1988. In order, my Lord, to lead the statement of the witness, Johan Ndlovu.
You said in terms of?
Section 3, subsection 1C of Act 45 of 1988.
Yes.
The reason, my Lord, being that the deponent to the statement that I'm intending to refer the witness before this court is no more. He had since passed away, and therefore he cannot be called to come and confirm the credibility of this statement. However, my Lord, it is my submission that it is in the interest of justice that the content of this statement be read into the witness, who is currently in the witness box, for him to respond.
As is always the case when it comes to court trials as well, the other side of the coin is what the state had to say about that.
So the state objected to this hearsay evidence being submitted or heard in court, citing a number of issues around the fact that this particular statement, Gareth, that was deposed by General Johan Ndlovu at the time of his death earlier this year. He was a general, but at the time of the murder, he was actually a brigadier. And I don't know if you would remember that much of the cross-examination of Sergeant Mosia, you would hear the name Brigadier Ndlovu mentioned quite a number of times, and Mosia claims that Brigadier Ndlovu is the one who called him to the scene, but also assisted him in terms of what exhibits to photograph at the crime scene, what fingerprints to take, what to take from the crime scene, what not to take. And in this particular statement by Brigadier Ndlovu, he paints a completely different picture in terms of what happened, and the state was saying that because Brigadier Ndlovu is no more, then there isn't really anything to back up this affidavit in court, saying that it was problematic to submit this hearsay evidence. Let's take a listen to the state prosecutor.
Already
traveled down this road. The court will recall that Advocate Tifo tried to cross-examine the witness on that statement, and the state objected, and even if there was no formal ruling, but Advocate Tifo then abided by the objection and did not pursue the matter any further. Section 3 of Act 45 of 1988 that my learned friend wants to make use of mentions 3 possible bases for admissibility of hearsay evidence. The first possibility is by consent. We're not consenting to that. The second ground is testifying by the person on whose credibility the value of the hearsay depends. Obviously, this is not possible in light of the demise of the witness. And thirdly, judicial discretion in the interest of justice. And that is the ground on which my learned friend is basing her argument.
And then, of course, Lee, as well, we had to try and get some idea of what was contained in this hearsay evidence as well, I'm sure.
So eventually, or finally, Judge Chifo Mamela ruled in the favor of Advocate Mshololo, saying that it was in the interest of justice that this hearsay evidence be heard. And that is because you would understand that with this high-profile case, there's a lot of conspiracy theories around the way in which the trial is being conducted or the slow pace in which it's moving. There have been, a lot of theories around the role players and stakeholders in this matter, especially the court officials who are actually presiding over this trial. And what Judge Maumela was saying is that the integrity of the justice system, in fact, is at stake. And so he believed that the interest of justice permitted that he allowed this hearsay evidence to be heard. And in fact, the statement that was read into the record by Advocate Mshololo from General Ndlovu was the fact that while General Ndlovu does concede that he called Mosia to the crime scene, he disputes that he assisted him in collecting evidence. Let's take a listen.
I did not point any scene or exhibits to him as I was not in charge of the scene.
Ulaba assign scene report yaka ho bontsha hore ke fumane yena and then ka sebetsa ntho tsotlhe tsene ke di etsa crime scene una a shebile.
Okay, I think there is a mistake that happened there because in my
scene report.
In my scene report, he is the one who even signed to confirm that he was with me at the scene of crime, and he was the one who was assisting and pointing out to me some of the things that were at the scene of crime.
All right, Slindelo Masikane, for the moment, thank you very much. No doubts we're back to you again later in the morning. Also, live coverage from 10 a.m. this morning.